Please welcome Presidential Leadership Scholar Jake Harriman.
It is such a humbling honor to be able to represent the inaugural class of PLS. I want to thank President Clinton, President Bush, representatives from the 4 presidential libraries, the senior leadership of the Clinton Foundation and the Bush Center, our generous donors who made all of this possible for our scholars. And mostly, and actually last but not least, I want to thank our staff and faculty of the PLS program. You guys put countless hours into this program, and it was a smashing success. So thank you guys so much for your time and effort. PLS has been a transformative experience for all of us scholars. We've all gained valuable lessons from all of the presidents that were a part of the program. And after each module, I took to posting what I thought were top 10 takeaways from each of the modules on my blog. And I thought I'd share a few of those with you here today, the ones that impacted my own leadership most effectively. First of all, President Clinton taught us that as a leader, you always have to be looking down the road. A leader has to keep his eyes up and looking out to anticipate challenges, to shape the battlefield, to ensure that when the team arrives, they're successful. President Bush taught us that a firm foundation is absolutely critical. A leader has to establish a core set of values and principles that simply will not change, and then build a decision-making process on that bedrock. We learned from the elder President Bush that if you want to build trust, you have to invest in personal relationships. That when the chips are down and your team is under fire, the relationships and the trust that you build will enable you to come together, hunker down, and fight through to victory. But I think the best lesson that I learned, the most important lesson that I learned at PLS, was that if I ever want to make a fashion statement at the next White House event, I need to have Kevin Hooks on speed dial, and he will make me look my best. To the presidents and your teams, I have been so inspired by your vision to create this program. You know, servant leadership is about leading by example. It's about getting in the trenches with your people, getting dirt under your fingernails, and demonstrating to your team what is actually possible. And I've seen you both do this. You both understand the ugly, divisive challenges that our leaders in America face today. And I witnessed you and your teams from the top on down, stepping forward, stepping across the aisle, greeting and embracing the other side in an effort to heal the partisan rift that is tearing our nation apart today. And I want to thank you both so much for your strong, bold leadership in this way. It has meant the world to me, it has meant the world to the scholars, and it will mean the world to the country as we approach an election year. Thank you very much for that. And now I'd like to turn my attention to my fellow scholars, my teammates, my new family. When I first heard that I was going to be speaking today, I instantly thought of you guys, and I was really scared. I was terrified. I was terrified that I was going to let you down, that I wasn't going to be able to make you proud enough of the progress that we have made over the last 6 months. And, as I thought about that, I reached out to a few of you in my anxiety for advice. And the advice I got back was, you know what, just be authentic. Be yourself. I think Carlos said, be you. So in the spirit of that advice, I want to offer you the following remarks. And just remember that you asked for it. As many of you know, I had the opportunity and privilege to serve our great nation on the front lines of combat as a Marine in 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, and then 1st Force Reconnaissance Company. And I often get asked by my friends and family why I chose to fight. You know, war is a terrible thing. It's one of the worst things that we can do to each other as human beings. And stories get written in combat that you simply cannot unwrite. But there is evil in this world. evil that fuels the inequality and injustice and oppression of freedom around the world, evil that makes our armed forces absolutely critical and a necessity. You see, it was the horrors of combat that shaped and molded me into the man and the leader that you see before you today. And so when I reflect back on that question about why I chose to fight, the answer is pretty simple. At a very basic level, first, I chose to fight for that Marine on my right and the Marine on my left, to make sure that I could get my brothers home safely to the families who I knew were waiting for them at home. But second, and perhaps more deeply, I chose to fight for the idea that is America. The idea that is America. A nation that stands for the freedom of human rights and lasting, meaningful choices for everyone, everywhere. Our nation stands at a real crossroads today. There are daunting challenges, both internationally and domestically. ISIS and Al-Qaeda grow daily in number and strength by preying on the desperation and instability of impoverished nations that fuel their movements. Here at home, our leaders are blindly divided across deep-seated party lines. And the people of our nation live in fear and sometimes blind hatred of each other. We have lost sight of what ties us together. We have lost sight about what makes us Americans. But as I look out in this audience today, as I look at you guys, I see hope. Each of you is in that seat today for a reason. You were chosen. Each of us are risk takers. And as such, we are uniquely equipped to leverage the lessons from this PLS program better than others to truly create disruptive change in our nation and our world. Not just change for change's sake, but change for the sake of a nation as it was always meant to be. We all came to this program for different reasons. Some of us for a network, some of us for professional development, some of us for strategic advice for a project or an organization. But what all of us found was inspiration and a calling. Your selection as a Presidential Leadership Scholar is a strong call of duty. And as I look out at you today, I see the future leaders of our country in academia, in education, in state and local governments, in Congress, and yes, perhaps one day even the President of the United States. And I want to encourage you today, do not let this be just another Leadership Fellows program. Don't be looking around to find out who's the next great leader to get behind. What's the next great movement to get behind? You are that leader, and you're leading that movement. And it's time for us to step out of the rank and file and rediscover the idea that is America. As Teddy Roosevelt so famously said, it's not the critic that counts. It's not the man who points out where the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds should have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood. But what does that mean for us? That's a bold challenge. What does that mean for us as PLS scholars? After Hurricane Katrina, Narav Kingsland transformed the structure of public education in New Orleans. And now he's scaling that model to reinvent public education across the country. Diana Mao is disrupting a $99 billion global human trafficking industry by providing training and job opportunities for survivors and the most vulnerable, while simultaneously engaging large brands to decrease child and forced labor in the supply chains. Casey Gerald is mobilizing the next generation of Americans to come together and unleash their entrepreneurial spirit to create jobs, change lives, and repair the social fabric in our country today. That's 3. There are 56 more amazing catalytic ways to step into the arena. You're sitting in those seats right there. But we have to do it. Every generation in this country will leave its own indelible mark on the face of this great nation. And now it's our turn. But it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. The road is going to be hard. There's going to be daunting challenges. But I can assure you that the path is well known and well worn by many of the courageous leaders who are sitting here with us today, who stand ready to support us. Don't shy away from your call of duty, because in the end, as Roosevelt says, at best, we will know the triumph of high achievement. And at worst, if we fail, well, at least we fail while daring greatly, so that our place will never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. The time has come for us. I challenge you to step with me now into the arena, and let's restore the idea that is America, to bring freedom and hope once again to our nation and to the world. Thank you. And it's now my privilege to invite to the stage three leaders who have certainly stepped into the arena on a global scale. Three leaders whom I have the utmost respect and admiration for. First, Margaret Spellings, the president of the George W. Bush Presidential Center, and she will be moderating the conversation. And then two leaders whom had the privilege of serving under as my commanders-in-chief. Two leaders from whom we have all learned valuable lessons about leadership and life. It is my honor to introduce to you today the 42nd and 43rd Presidents of the United States, President William J. Clinton and President George W. Bush. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.